Welcome to episode 70 of our series on the surnames of Appalachia and the American South. Right off the bat, I want to address a request or comment that I've received a few times. I've been asked why I don't list surnames that I cover in each upcoming episode. After all, I provide a surname catalog of all the names that have been covered in each episode prior to the previous week. I don't want to seem like I'm driven by money, folks, but I am not rich. I must work to earn my keep. The views on my videos range from 350 to 240,000, coming up on 250,000. On a typical video of 2,500 views, I make anywhere from $5 to $12. The key difference is how many of you watch some or all the commercials. Now, if I post the names before folks see the video, I'm afraid that the views will be so low as to make my time worthless. I could start a Patreon account where dedicated supporters of the channel make small financial contributions. Otherwise, if I list the names that will appear on each episode before they are premiered, I'll be financially driven to include only popular names at the expense of some more obscure families. I'm open to suggestions, folks. On today's episode, we'll see a famous last name that once belonged to a French Huguenot family, or Huguenot family. I hope you'll join me. Let's get started. Number 1, Mims. When I received this request, I immediately thought of one of my grandkids' favorite people, their Mims and my missus. Daughter Sarah gave Mims a plaque that reads, "Mims are moms with extra frosting." Their papa has a lot more frosting though, so what am I? I suppose I'm a Mims paw. At any rate, I found that Mims doesn't really mean moms with extra frosting. As it turns out, the name Mims was given to a person who lived in southern England's North or South Mims. So, it's a habitational name. But is it found among the traditional surnames of Ireland, Scotland, or Wales? I couldn't find Mims among any of those traditional surnames. So, I think we're safe in calling Mims an English habitational name. Number 2, Hurley. Back in the 1990s, the English actress Elizabeth Hurley lit up the screens in such memorable and thought-provoking movies as Austin Powers, International Man of Mystery, 1997, and Bedazzled in the year 2000. She also had the unfortunate distinction of being a longtime girlfriend of Hugh Grant when he was arrested for acts of lewd conduct with a prostitute in his car. I suppose he was too cheap to rent a room, but at any rate, it was a wake-up call for the English actress to make some changes in her relational life. Harrison calls Hurley a Celtic name, but that's just a linguistic branch origin story. From which Celtic land did Hurley appear first? As it turns out, it's an Irish name adopted from... I couldn't find Hurley among the traditional surnames of Wales or Scotland, so I'm inclined to call Hurley an English or Irish surname. Number 3, Easterly. As you might know, I have an interest in weather and climate, especially in historical context. An easterly wind would tell us that the wind is coming from the east, a westerly from the west. As it turns out, the surname Easterly could be an English name as an Easterling, for one from the east, but it could be an Americanized form of the Dutch-German Oosterly. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, but I'm not sure. I'm sure somebody will tell me in the comment section, but that's okay. Type away. In the case of the Dutch and Germanic meanings, it doesn't suggest a direct eastward origin story. Instead, it's habitational. It's a habitational name taken from South Holland or the Netherlands. At the end of the day, I think you'll need a paper trail to determine the origin of your line of Easterly. That's because of the difficulties associated with distinguishing between Anglo-Saxon and Dutch DNA. I think you'll need a paper trail. Number 4, Knox. As I work on this episode, I am situated about 25 miles from Knox County, Tennessee, and about 48 miles from Knox County, Kentucky. Of course, Knox County, Tennessee has Knoxville as its county seat. Although it's a prominent name on the political landscape here, I've met few people with the surname. If you'll recall though, America's 11th president was named James Knox Polk, a native Tennessean. A common habit in the old days was to use a mother's last name as the first or middle name of a male heir. In this case, James Knox Polk was named after his maternal grandfather, Captain James Knox of Mecklenburg County, North Carolina. That's where Charlotte's located. Being born in North Carolina with the name Knox, I'm drawn to consider that the name Knox is derived from the line that produced the father of the Scottish Reformation. His name was Reverend John Knox. He was born around 1514, died in 1572, so he wasn't a very old man, but portraits of him, he looks like an old, ancient, long-bearded kind of guy. I write quite a bit about him in my books on Scotland, but is Knox's surname really of Scottish origin? The first person, as it turns out, called Knox was so named because he apparently knocked on doors a lot. That's what it meant. The first recording of the name was in Renfrewshire, Scotland. Renfrew Valley, Kentucky, by the way, is about 40 miles north of Knox County, Kentucky. There's no shortage of Scottish names in both the phone book and on place names. Around these parts, that is. The surname Knox is found in Ulster too, so an American named Knox could claim a Scottish or Scots-Irish ancestry. Number 5, Gillette. Have you ever heard of a fellow named John C. Gillette? He was born in Wisconsin in 1855, but he passed away in California in 1932. He's not Southern, but his name kind of parallels some other movements into the South, so let's explore this. King Gillette was a traveling salesman who had a penchant for inventions for which he received patents. Arguably his most impressive and impactful invention was his version of the safety razor. Using that product, he started the Gillette Company in 1902. The company is now owned by Procter & Gamble. King Gillette's paternal ancestors were French Huguenots, just like my mom's paternal line. They had taken refuge first in England after 1685 in the revocation of the Edict of Nantes in France, which gave Protestants the freedom to worship as they saw fit. French Huguenots also fled to Ulster and to Wales, and like my Voiles maternal line and Crockett's, they eventually settled in Appalachia in the south. King's line entered America in Massachusetts. This French name is not found among the traditional surnames of Ireland, Scotland, or Wales, so I think that we are more than safe in calling Gillette an Anglo-French surname. By the way, it started its existence as a family name applied to a diminutive French person named Gillet, or Gillette, or Gilles. Gilles. I don't know, it's French. And I've studied French for years. Sorry about that, folks. Anyway, number 6, Peak. I have to say that when I read this request, my interests were piqued, pun intended. As you might guess, the surname Peak has an English language origin for one who dwelled on a pointed hill. However, it could be of Irish origin. There's an Irish surname, McPeak, and it has a Gaelic spelling. There was a time when the Irish and Scottish immigrants to America, like their German counterparts, often dropped parts of their name to make it sound more American or Anglo. I couldn't find Peak among the traditional surnames of Scotland or Wales, so I think we're safe in calling Peak an Irish or English surname. Number 7, Collie, or Collie. It's no secret that I'm a sports fan. I love boxing, MMA, basketball, golf, and football. I grew up dreaming of pitching in the major and minor leagues, or minor and major leagues, depending on which one I got to first. Alas, a hunting accident and a degenerative bone disease knocked out all those dreams by the time I reached 17, except for football for some reason. I literally was still dreaming of playing in the NFL when I reached age 60. Why do I mention that aspect of my life? It's simple. One of my favorite quarterbacks was Peyton Manning. One of his favorite receivers toward the end of his era in Indianapolis was none other than Austin Kirk Collie. I like to think that I resembled Kirk Collie when I was much younger. At any rate, what's the story on Austin's surname? His name, according to Henry Harrison, originated in England as a diminutive for Cole. It also could mean one who had a dark complexion, as in Cole, C-O-A-L. Edward McLysick argues that it is an indigenous Irish name. It belongs to north central and northwestern counties Roscommon and Galway. How about a bit more confusion on the origins of Collie? George Fraser Black includes it among the traditional names of Scotland. It first appears on the records of Aberdeenshire in 1296 during the time of Sir William Wallace. Needless to say, I think you'll need a paper trail to find the origin of your specific line of Collie. Well, folks, that's about all I have for you today. Hope you got something meaningful out of the discussion. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Until I see you again, may the good Lord bless and keep you. May He make His face shine on you and give you peace. Bye-bye.